Strap yourselves in. You're listening to the Powell Movement.
Welcome to the Powell Movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and this week we are on episode 98. Holy shit, I haven't had a real job in almost 2 years, and this thing seems to be working out. I need to thank each and every one of you for listening, telling your friends about the show, and sharing my shit. And I know, sharing my shit is gross, but this is the Powell Movement, and if you didn't know it by now, the name's a poop joke. So we are on episode 98, and that calls for a living legend, and Russell Winfield is a living legend. Russell has been a snowboarder since the 80s, and he's left a trail of comedy, party, and snowboard tales in his wake. This podcast is part 1 of 2 with Russell, and honestly, who knows when part 2 will come. Before we talk to Russell, it's time for me to ask you to tell your friends about the show, repost anything you like, and thank my great sponsors. They are Evo, Rescue Water, the 10 Barrel Brewery, Outdoor Research, and Spy Optic. In their ads, you'll hear some codes. They're going to save you some money on things you're going to need this season, so use them. Now, let's talk to Russell Winfield. So I'm here in West Seattle with Russell Winfield. You've been around snowboarding forever.
Yes, sir.
Since its inception. But one thing that I've noticed in the world of snowboarding, skiing, or anything snow is the color of snow. It's snow white, and the whole world of snowboarding is snow white. And since I started the podcast, I've had one black guest on. He was Mo Sanders, roller derby athlete, rollerblader, and an all-around badass. His nickname's Quadzilla, and he's a monster. But I haven't had any other athletes that really fit the bill that happen to be African-American. And when I say that, and I look at you and I say African-American or black, what's right? What do I even say?
You can call me Russell, man. And before I go any further, I would just like to send up to the heavens a R.I.P. to the young homie, Dylan Oho, who passed this summer. Fucking tragic, man. Brings tears to my eyes. Okay, I got that out of the way.
So I'm going to call you Russell, but in the landscape of snow sports, it's a predominantly white world.
I'm black as fuck in the land of snow skate. That's just what it is.
If you look at pro snowboarders, I look at you as the first black snowboarder out there, which is really stupid of me to say, because you're just a snowboarder who happens to have a different color skin. It doesn't really matter. But when you see it in snow, I don't see a ton of variety of people on the mountain.
Well, let's break it down to really why. Let's break it down to the economics. Going to the mountain is not cheap, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was blessed. I grew up only child, and my parents basically anything to do with sports or art or music would go out of their way to make sure that I had, because they knew that I was an unruly kid. And so they were like, you know, this kid better figure something out because he doesn't like going to school and all that. And because of sports, I went to a super good private school where I got introduced to snowboarding on like a whim, going to the skate shop to buy a skateboard.
Had you skied before? Or?
Oh, yeah. Because my rich homies, the homies that I grew up with, were all go up to Stratton Mountain. And I hadn't skied, and I was an athlete, and I was good at sports. So I went up there, and I figured it out, and I got pretty decent at skiing real quick. And I grew up in Rye, New York, man. That's where the Bush family's from.
Old money?
Bro, the money's so old that the IRS can't even count it. Let's say that. You know what I'm saying? So I played ice hockey. That was what I did. I've always leaned very heavily on athletics. Not to toot my own horn, but I was fucking good. I was a better hockey player than a snowboarder.
Okay.
Let's just say that. Like, I went to the Canadian Olympic goalie training summer camp. And this is like in the 80s, bro. How the fuck did they you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So I go to this place outside of Toronto. It reminded me of the Rocky movie where he was in Russia. Because, bro, it was farms, and I pulled into this farm, and there was like no hockey rink. You know, it was summer. There was no hockey rink, and there was one horse humping another, like impregnating the other horse. Like, that was the first shit I seen. I was like, oh my God. And so we went into one of the barns. There was like 5 barns. It was crazy, man. Like, thinking back on this is like crazy. They had a puck machine, dry ice, and this little Canadian dude named Dave Tatarn, who's like the goalie man. He's like the fucking Yoda, Canadian goalie Yoda. And this dude, all padded up, stopping these shots. And this dude I've never seen to this day anybody. You know who that motherfucker was?
Who?
Patrick Waugh.
Oh, wow.
It was the summer before he came out. And I ran to the phone. I was like, Mom, there's this dude here named Patrick Waugh. I've never seen anything like it. And then he came out the next year. So I was at that spot.
Wow. So you were right there.
No, I was in it. I had a hockey pad sponsor, a company called Vaughn. Like the dude came out and measured me all up, and I was in it.
So growing up in New York, I won't say life was easy for you because everybody has challenges in life, but your parents did well. You're able to play hockey, snowboard. So financially wise, that wasn't a concern?
It wasn't a concern. And this is going to sound super shitty, but not being concerned is relative. The dudes I'm hanging out with, these kids, like for instance, now this is going to sound super bratty, but I got a 16 valve Jetta when I was 16.
Awesome.
I went to the school to Brunswick in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I had gotten kicked out of. I went there for a hockey scholarship in 5th grade. I couldn't play hockey until 7th grade.
No way.
Yeah. And these were my homies. Like, these are the kids that I skied with and, like, snowboarded with, all that. So I went back all proud of myself at 16 with my Jetta, pulled up, and it was like the one homie had the Ferrari. The other homie had, like, the Lotus. The other homie had the big body Benz.
You grew up in a charmed world.
It was crazy. These kids, they're all super rad, and I still talk to some of them, and most of them are doing real well. To grow up amongst that, when I got out into the real world, I was all, oh, like, whoa, okay. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a bubble, too, right outside of D.C., and it was like everybody had nice cars when they turned 16. Hearing yours with Ferraris and things like that is crazy, but you don't think of it as you're privileged at that point because you're just living your life.
Like the first time I went to L.A. for the Nationals for snowboarding, we were in downtown L.A., and I'm a New York City kid. And I'm like, well, where the fuck's the city?
Right.
They're like, you're in it. I'm like, no, this is the suburbs, bro. This isn't the city. So it's just like perception of where you're from, really.
So there's no diversity on the mountain, and it's based on pure economics. But in your situation, you had it, so you didn't have to worry about it. And it's nice when you're a kid that you don't have to think about it.
Oh, I thought about it, bro. I'm not going to really get into a bunch of stuff because I'm not that guy. I don't put people or places on blast. But there were certain places in my hometown where I wasn't welcome. I could go, but it was it was different, man.
I mean, that's the crazy thing is because you and I aren't that different as people. We've had some shared experiences. You're a much better athlete than I am, and I might be a better talker than you are. Who knows? But based on our skin color, our lives have been different.
But you're a Jew, man, so we're kindred spirits.
True, but there's only been one time in my entire life where I felt that being Jewish, I was being not discriminated against, but someone said something kind of nasty, and I was like, wow, they just said that because I was Jewish. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. But to you, that's not crazy because
it happens all the time.
Do you get pulled over more than I would get pulled over?
I used to. Now that I'm all old and with white hair and shit, they mellow out on us.
And people just have an attitude or like a fear based on stupidity?
Yeah, I mean, you know, people are people, man. I try to stay in my lane and just deal with my own shit. I'm not really worried about humans.
And I know you're not worried about anybody, but it's just weird that your life has been different because other people are worried about their perception of you, which is just stupid. But the older people are kind of dying off, and eventually that'll change.
I don't know if it will. I don't think it will. I mean, look what's going on. Like, I'm not going to get into politics.
Nope, we won't.
But look what the fuck's happening.
We are more divided than ever.
On some bullshit.
But you know what? In terms of division and your life, I mean, there's more than just skin color because the sport that you chose, being a snowboarder when snowboarding just started, it was a different world there too. You were discriminated against because of the sport you were a part of.
Maybe that's why I chose it. It wasn't just because I was black. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was now a group of dudes who everybody on the hill hated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, being black, like, if we all got in trouble, I was definitely going to be the first one to get called out. But we were all getting in trouble. So it was like, well, at least, you know, I'm not completely alone. Who knows?
Did you ever feel on the hill that people didn't like you because you were a snowboarder and could care less about your skin color?
It's kind of like this. look at that snowboarder. Oh, and he's black. So it was definitely a secondary hatred, but it was a blessing and a curse because when it came to sponsorship,
My next question.
my first sponsor, Mistral, I remember the rep sponsor, RIP Doug Burns. Love you, man. Miss you. He was like, we need to try to ride for this company, Mistral. Their boards are sick. They're German. I know they're German, and that might be weird, but their stuff is sick. Because back then, we had a race, too, on the East Coast. For nationals, you had a race, and you had to do free. You had to do it all.
That's how everybody rode back then.
Yep. There was no video. So, like, I was sending this dude pictures of me racing and doing airs and stuff, and he put me on, and he's like, I got to tell you, those pictures are what did it. And without saying it, he said it. So it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, because my question was going to be about token females.
Oh, yeah. Token black dude?
Yeah, back then, we're talking 96.
Talking 89, bro.
I was going to say 96. How many black snowboarders do you know that are out there? But 89, 90, there's not.
There was two. And not to, like, fast forward a bunch, but dude, Trevor, God, what's his name? From South Lake was a black dude. And it was 96 or 97. We had the Bud Light Big Air contest up here. And he was up and we were chilling and like Ken Block and Alyasha from Dub were here. And like everybody was at me, Jamie, Peter, everybody, Borgst, everybody it was a Bud Light contest. There was like some weird like Blink 182, some stupid fucking band like that was there. And it was huge. Like all of Seattle was up at the summit. And I watched this kid clear the whole jump by like 60 feet and get paralyzed right before my run. I mean, he's in a wheelchair, bro. I ended up beating almost everybody besides Jason Borgstead that day. I got second place, but
you think back to it now and it's like that was a heavy day in a dude's life that changed him.
It changed me. Like, it really changed him. But when you're rolling into a jump, like, all I see is that. Every time I roll into a jump, it's a little eerie, man. Like, I don't want to go too long, but I don't want to go oh, God. I'm glad I'm old and I don't got to be competing with Haldor, fucking Helgeson, because that boy is out of hand.
At this point, people are happy when you show up and then they can smile and start telling stories. But back then, before we even get into your career, I read somewhere that maybe you went to school in New York City?
Oh, yeah.
So you were in the city at a really pivotal time, I feel like, for the East Coast. It was probably 89 through 94, and East Coast hip-hop and, like, the New York hip-hop scene's blowing up, and you're right there.
Yeah, and, you know, BDP, Worldwide Hip-Hop Live?
I know BDP. I don't know Worldwide Hip-Hop Live.
So there's an album, Worldwide Hip-Hop Live or something, and I was at 16... Back in the 80s, New York City, there was no drinking age. It was who you knew and your steez and, you know what I'm saying, like pre-swag, swag kind of stuff. And I worked at a restaurant called Amici Mie on West Houston and West Broadway. It was fantastic. Southern Italian. Oh, my God. So I was at that show, and it was just like, I remember, who's the girl from that movie? The one with Bruce Willis and the blue lady singing, la, 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 la. And they're on the ship with Chris Rock. Chris Rock running around like a maniac with the microphone. I can't remember. Yeah. But her first week in New York, she came into the restaurant. Like, I was in the New York scene. It was cool, man. Like, Q-Tip would come in and all the boys. And, like, I'd go to Russell Simmons' birthday party at Peggy Sue's. And then I'd duck off to Vermont to go hang with Mitchell and Burns and Tedesco and Ross Powers and Trisha Burns. And
you had a double life.
Kinda, yeah.
What were you like as a kid in high school? I mean, you said you didn't like school.
Well, at that point, I went to a school in New York City called the Tutoring School. So it was a professional kids school, so I could leave for snowboarding. So at that point, I started doing really, really well because I had teachers that didn't treat me like a little kid, and I did great. I'd come to school. I'd leave for like 3 weeks, go up to Vermont. I had a spot in Stratton with the homie Matt Mitchell, or I'd go out west or whatever I had to do for snowboarding, come back to school.
So you were living the life of everybody in your hometown, it seems like. The jet-setting, rich Connecticut or whatever area you lived that life.
Oh, I was on top of all them. You got to realize these blue blood people, they have a way about them. It's very conservative. And you do this, 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 and this, and you get that. And that is huge. Me, I just did this, and then I wanted that kind of situation. So they were all, going to college and doing their thing. My best girlfriend, this girl, she's married now, but her name was Jen Ader. And this is a girl that I hung out with every single day. I would kill for this woman. Like, this is like family. I love this girl like no other. She owns Silverton. Her and her husband own Silverton Mountain.
Jen Brill?
Yeah. Well, it was Jen Ader.
Okay. Yeah. I know who she is, too. Super nice girl. She's from your town?
Yeah. I started her snowboarding. I don't know if I can say that, but she's fucking rad. She's the warmest hearted individual, and I love her.
And you have to come from a town like yours to go and buy Silverton, I would think.
I'm not going to get into her family, but Jen Ader and her family are fucking bosses. They are great Jews.
I didn't even know she was Jewish.
I would have married her and fucking converted. For real.
You and Sammy Davis Jr., man.
Bro, I'm still trying. Still. I think you guys got it figured out, honestly. I think the Jews fucking got it figured out. Way better than we do. Like, as far as, like, community.
Well, it's community and family, and being you're black, I'm Jewish, and I look at Jewish as, like, a race, even though it's not.
No, you guys are culture. You guys have your own diseases and shit. Yeah. You guys are good. But it's true. See, I grew up with all the New York Jews, so, like, I have all this info in my head, and I've watched it.
So here's the best Jewish question for you. Growing up around Jews, what was the best theme of a bar or bat mitzvah that you went to? Because I'm sure you had some stupid, extravagant shit.
Here's the thing. Where I was super conservative. So even the Jews, like, it was real under the cuff. Like, I'm sure there was hundreds of thousands of dollars of envelopes.
Yeah, but there wasn't that bar mitzvah where you took your picture with the 7-foot cutout of the bar mitzvah boy and made a button.
No, these were the conservative Jews I grew up with. The Wall Street Jews, the art world Jews. They weren't the Long Island Jews.
Well, my family was more the Long Island style. I was the 6-foot cutout that I was talking about that people took pictures next to.
I'm fucking so happy for you. I still want one. Can I get one of those still?
I think all you need to do is convert, and I think you can do it on the internet.
I'm all snipped up and ready to go, bro. Let's fucking make it happen. Found a Jewish wife. God, I love Jewish women. They're fucking best. You don't got to do anything. They take care of everything. You don't got to tell nobody no. Be like, yeah, I talked to my wife, bro.
Well, I do that, and I didn't even marry a Jewish woman.
But you married a shiksa.
Yes, I did. And she gets it.
Mama Powell, I'm so sorry. Your son, I understand.
I'm going to go away from Judaism, and I'm going to go back into snowboarding. So You're living in New York, Wu-Tang, Biggie, and all that shit is blowing up at that point because it's the time of life to live there. Because we talk about it now like, oh, all these New York rap groups. But back when you lived there, that's when they were happening, which is pretty fucking cool to me. You're doing weekends up at Stratton. You get your first sports sponsor. How old are you when that happened?
16.
16. So you have a big head?
No, I mean, it was... Before there were all these academies, Susie Ruick, who was one of the original Burton girls, she was a Stratton Mountain school ski racer, like the Heingartners and the Hayeses that converted to snowboarding. She opened Stratton Mountain Allegro team, which was me, Ross Powers, Matt Mitchell, Doug Burns, Trisha Burns, Jay Fusco, Ryan Foley.
A history book.
And, we pay like $1,200 a year. We'd run gates, we'd cut lines, basically do whatever the fuck we wanted. It was fun. Like, she kind of groomed us. It evolved into these academies because Stratton Mountain School wouldn't allow snowboarding. So we were like, fine, we don't need school. School sucks anyhow. We're just going to fucking smoke weed, get blacked out, drunk on Jägermeister, and snowboard.
And that was that era.
That was it.
When you finally do get some coaching or in a program, how do you do with coaching? Is that something that you're receptive to?
It's funny. I do well when someone's like, hey, just try this. If I respect you.
Okay.
But I hated racing. I did well. I hated it. Fucking hard boots and fucking...
bomber bindings.
Yeah. See, snowboarding used to be a sport designed by necessity. So, like, they'd have these hard boots that just sucked. So we'd go out and we'd buy Reichly ski boots, the...
Flex on comp.
The Keep Comps, the black and purple ones, a little softer. And we'd cut the flex points out so that they'd be softer. Then put slits in the tongues. Oh, my God, bro. Those things were fucking money. And we did the same things with our soft boot bindings. Instead of having the straps up by your ankle hinge bone there, put them all the way down in the flat.
You're still figuring out the gear.
Yeah, like I notice now a lot of kids these days, they just kind of take what they're given and just go with it. Like
pick a stance, they don't adjust.
They go with it. They're like, hey, it's like, but don't you want to try to make this shit work better?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take a really quick break. We're going to talk about my sponsors. My first sponsor is Evo. And if you've been to evo.com, you know that Evo creates the best user experience, has the best brands, offers a low price guarantee, free shipping on orders over $50, and a no-hassle return policy. Well, if you haven't noticed, they're also helping change the world of retail. The store creates experiences, events around the sports we're passionate about, they build communities of like-minded people, and they make a difference through giving back. Evo has stores in Denver, Seattle, and Portland, and soon they're opening up stores in Whistler. To find out more about in-store events or to buy the things you're going to need this winter at the best prices, head on over to evo.com. My next sponsor is Rescue Water. When I first started drinking Rescue Water, it was a bottle before bed after big nights and I'd wake up feeling awesome. But Rescue Water has so many more benefits than just after big nights. It's all about being proactive in your recovery. And Rescue Water is proactive recovery for when you get off the mountain, out of the gym, or done your sport. It's a difference that you will feel, and it will hydrate you so much better than your traditional sports drink. Next time you're at the store, grab a Rescue Water, or head on over to rescuewater.com, enter the code RESQ Water TPM, that's all one word, and you'll get 20% off a 12-pack and become a believer. My next sponsor is Outdoor Research. And I've been wearing their outerwear since I moved to Seattle in 2000 because it works better than anything else on the market. It's developed and tested in the Northwest, so you know it's gear you can trust. OR is committed to improving your experience with exceptional product so you don't have to think about your gear while you're out on your journey. But don't just take my word for it. In this year's Powder Magazine Apparel Guide, there was one brand voted Apparel of the Year. It was Outdoor Research. So when you're shopping for outerwear this winter, get the best. Head on over to outdoorresearch.com, and new customers, you will get 15% off your order when you check out. Enter the code Powell Movement. That's all caps, all one word, and valid until the end of the year. Those are my sponsors, and we just took a bathroom break. And Russell, the thing about the bathroom break that was really interesting to me was like, I've got to take a piss. And you're like, hey man, if you got to take a piss, go take a piss. Trying to be super nice. And I was like, no, you're the guest. You go first. So I go in there a minute later and you were only in there for 45 seconds.
I'm a quick shitter.
That quick. It was crazy.
I don't like pooping, bro. I don't like my booty hole opening. You know what I'm saying? So I like wait till the last second and then just shoot it all out.
You were only in there for 40 seconds and I was like, wait, he took a shit in here. Powell movement on the Powell movement. That's kind of how it goes, right?
Amazing.
So I don't know where we were in the podcast, but you know where we're going to go? We're going to go to you moving to Colorado. So you get out of the house and you move to Colorado. To your parents, what do they think about it? They seem like they do well with their lives. Do they want you to go to college? Or they're like, go to Colorado and follow your dreams, Russell?
Well, I had a friend in high school whose uncle was like either the Cuban or the Colombian diplomat.
Okay.
And so I just saw all the stuff this kid was getting away with. So I was like, you know what? I think I want to try to be a diplomat. So I applied and got into the American University of Paris, which is like a prerequisite for diplomacy. I was going to study international law. And at the same time, Mistral was like, hey, we want to turn you pro. And so I'm like, I guess I'm going pro in snowboarding.
And were your parents cool with it? Were they like, hey, go for it, take your shot?
No, not really. But my parents loved me and they were like, hey, do you?
Did they still fund you?
They did for a minute. I had an allowance. I had a monthly allowance. Not gonna lie.
And I'm just curious to how you made it through.
No, they funded me. Mistral didn't last. So what happened was, I think it was still my senior year in high school where it all started getting super heavy. And I was traveling with brush. So I was just doing like the PSTA body glove, half pipe fucking tour with brush. And that spring, the U.S. Open came around and Tim Pogue was the Burton team manager. Yeah. And he was like, you know what? you're coming with me.
So you got onto the Burton AM team?
Burton Pro team before Colorado. So 18, maybe I wasn't even 18. Maybe I was 17. Fuck, it was so long ago. No, yeah, I was still 17. Came back. Pogue was like, you're coming with me. I was like, yes, sir. And that was in the spring. After the Open, jumped in my car, went out to the Burton World Team shoot. Burton is, they really, really do it when it comes to putting team photo shoots together, man. Let me tell you.
Between their catalog and everything they've done within snowboarding, people can talk shit, whatever they want about Burton, but they put their money where their mouth is and put a lot of fucking money into snowboarding and make a lot of things happen.
And Jake was always super cool with me and solid dude and what have you. And so then I was on Burton. So I ended up staying out there all spring. Get a call from Pogue. He's like, I'm leaving Burton. I was like, fuck, you are. I was like, if you're leaving, I'm leaving. What are we doing? And then we started Ride. I had moved to San Diego with Rayberg and Blattner. And so then Ride started from there.
So how long are you on Burton first?
Not very.
6 months, 8 months?
Maybe.
And then Tim's the team manager there. He's a really cool dude. He's been on the podcast. He's done a ton of shit. And Tim says, hey, we're going to create this new thing. We're going to have this skate style to it. You're going to be a part of it. It's going to be all these core dudes. And you're like, I'm down. Let's go.
Well, I don't know if he knew what the fuck he was doing. He just knew he wanted to do something. And so I was like, hey, I got ideas as well. And me and the homies, we could make this shit fucking snap. Like, we could make this shit pop.
But you believed in Tim and you were like, wherever you go, I'm going to go.
Here's the thing, man. If you're a dog and you got one motherfucker who's feeding you steaks every day, lots of them, and that motherfucker starts walking down the street, you're following that steak feeding motherfucker. You're not hoping that the next motherfucker is going to feed you them same steaks because he might not. Bro, my first Burton packages, I swear it looked like I was opening a store. My mom was like, what the fuck? I think I got the whole line. I was like, yep, it's over. I was like, wherever this dude goes, you want to stay next to people who are taking care of you. And Pogue, at that point, was definitely taking care of me.
When you get to Colorado, is that when Ride starts?
Well, we were in Colorado. I never left from the Burton shoot. And there were dudes like Rayberg. See, back then, you knew everybody from around the country from the Nationals. And me and Dale had been good friends because we were at camp in Whistler when we were 15. We went to the first Camp of Champions camp. So me and Dale knew each other. We were homies.
That Connecticut shit making you go to Whistler.
Yeah. And it was Doug Burns who was like, hey, there's the Whistler camp. I was like, hell yeah. Let's try this place out. And it was filthy. But once that Ride thing started, I remember being at ASR. And I remember there was this girl who was trying to hump on Rayberg. And Cersei Wallace was trying to get on the team. And we had this booth that was like a big quarter pipe. 15-foot quarter pipe was the booth. And this girl was badgering Rayberg. And Cersei was trying to get on the team. And she came out of the fucking booth and beat the brakes off this woman.
No way.
Oh, yeah, dude. Cersei was, yeah. Way to go, Cersei. We were like, sold! You're And Steph Pogue, Tim's wife, is a bad one, too. So she was like, yeah, I like this girl. So, I mean, our squad was undeniable, bro. Teams these days still try to emulate what we did.
There were no rules back then for you guys. Once you got to Ride, you were not expected to compete. You were expected to fucking party, wreak havoc.
And drop some ill pictures. Just be the best on a snowboard. It didn't matter if anybody ever saw it. The homies saw it. Back then, before there was social media, it was word of mouth.
And trouble was a good thing for you guys back then.
For some, I mean, you know.
Not for personally, but for a brand in your image. Like,
oh, yeah.
That was really good for you guys, as being seen as those guys that didn't give a fuck, would do whatever they wanted. And you thought about Ride with Dale with a fork through his tongue, not winning anything.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, our homies in San Diego were like Deerdick and Sal Barbier and Alf and D. Way and Sean Sheffy. That was our daily clique.
If you looked at the style and inspiration of all the riders, it was all skate style. Ride was the Joyride team that became Ride and became like skate style at that point, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. with a couple of us Burton kids sprinkled in.
And at that point with Ride, all they care about is, like you said, pictures, video parts. And I guess the first video part that people see you in is Pocahontas with Mac Dog.
It was probably my best video part ever. I mean, there was a couple good ones, but I was going in reverse most of that whole video.
With Pocahontas, is the first time in your life you probably have to play Hurry Up and Wait. You don't have that much experience filming, and that's your learning process.
And you know who my teachers fucking were? Sean Farmer and Nick Parada.
And Sean Farmer would be the most educated, smart, responsible snowboarder in the history of snowboarding.
Bro, I blame it all on Farmer and Parada. Fucking love you two. So what happened was we were at the Nationals at Timberline. And it was me, Rayberg, I think Nate might have been there, Jake might have been there, and Rocket Reeves. And the pipe was horrible. And we were doing good because it's what we did. But me, Rayberg, and Rocket went to the officials and were like, hey, man, this pipe sucks. Is there anything you guys could do? And they're like, you guys are doing fine. What are you worried about? We're like, well, it sucks. And so we all took our final runs. They didn't DQ us, but they didn't score any of us.
Huh.
So it was like, huh? And I fucking lost it.
And what does it look like when you lose it?
I called my mommy. Honestly, I called my mom, Mom, fuck this. She's like, well, what the fuck are you going to do? I was like, I want to go to Whistler and go to the West Beach and turn pro. She was like, fucking go ahead. You got the card. So I drove my happy black ass from Timberline Lodge up to Whistler and got a room at the Pan Pacific or whatever the fuck it was. Team Mommy. Because I'd known all the dudes. I've been going up there at this point for 3 years. Like, I knew all the dudes. They were all the homies. Johnson, Kearns, Dano, all of them, Maury. Like, those were homies. Like, we'd known each other since we were all 15.
And these are the people that shaped the
Canadian
landscape of snowboarding up.
Mm-hmm. I'd go up there, and I wouldn't go to we'd rent a house. So I'd be in Whistler all summer, just getting blacked out and snowboarding. So I show up, getting ready for the contest, and I can't remember who it was, Kearns or someone's like, and this was the spring after New Kids on the Talk had come out, which changed everything for me. Watching Roach and Salaz, R.I.P., and all them motherfuckers, bro. Watching them snowboard was like, okay. The beauty of being at Stratton was I'd get a glimpse of them.
They'd come into town.
Just watch the stees and how wet it was, and they'd be like, clack, clack, and you'd just, ooh, ooh. And so, Johnson's, hey, man, Mac Dog and Sean Farmer and Nick Parada are looking for a place to crash. Can I crash? I was like, yeah, man, sure. And so I had him crash, and we're going in Tommy Africa's. And Tommy Africa's is you got to walk down to go into it.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking drunk, and I'm talking shit. And fucking Farmer, he'd had enough. So he grabs the back of my shirt, and I'm like, oh, God. And I just take off, and he rips the whole back of my shirt off. And the bounce, everybody in Whistler knew me. I was low. So next day, I go, I'm fucking super hungover. Crash the first run, make it the second run, end up getting 8th or 9th, my first pro contest, which is not great, but I was fucking still hammered. And Dogger's like, so, hey, man, do you want to come ride with us tomorrow? I was like, yes. And so it was me, Dogger, Salaz. It was I was that kid. It was beautiful, man. It was fucking beautiful. And I'm real thankful that I didn't crash a whole bunch, and that, who really was the actual positive force in me landing a lot of it was Parada. Parada was like, just fucking do it. I was like, side drop it, switch, Parada. Just fucking do it, you fucking pussy. I was like, all right, fuck, all right.
And you're one of those dudes that needs that. When you hear that from someone you respect, you're in.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, fuck it. I mean, now I'm damn near 50 years old.
Yeah,
so man. You either go or you don't go.
Yeah.
And I've always had that about me.
But you think about it now, you're 50.
Yeah, not quite, but yeah. I like that. Let's just go with 50.
How old are you?
I'm 46.
Well, I might as well call you 50.
You can call me 50. Yeah.
Take your hat off. Are you gray?
Yes.
Gray and bald.
Well, hey.
I mean, I'm just calling it out here.
I'm less bald than most.
The listener can't hear this.
I got cul-de-sacs, though.
You shave it at all?
Yeah. This is a fresh cut.
When did you cut it?
2 days ago.
So we're about a 2-day beard for me.
The back, I got full coverage.
Yeah, you do. You don't have a ring. You're a father of 2 with a kid in college, man. You're allowed to not have hair. So what I think is the part that put you on the map, although Pocahontas was your first time learning to film, because I think that's where we started, where you just went off. And I love that, man. You just go off whenever you want to go. But the part that puts you on the map globally is the hard, the hungry, and the homeless. When that came out, that's when people knew exactly who you were. I mean, people knew who you were because you were the token black snowboarder.
Yeah, who wasn't horrible.
Yeah. So that helped you in your early career. There was, I don't want to say reverse racism, but people were stoked that a black dude was awesome at snowboarding.
Yes.
And then you put out Pocahontas, people see you, then the next part comes
Hard,
out.
hungry. And the ride vid was good, too. Like, I had some shit in there.
At that time, you're partying really hard, too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when we talk about partying, drinking and smoking weed's one thing. That's all legal nowadays. But we're talking powder days and powder nights.
Snow runs deep, brother.
Does that become a big problem? Because
huge problem.
So all your money, how much are you making a year, you think, at this time from all your sponsors?
Right.
110 grand?
100-something racks.
And how much are you actually partying with and traveling and having fun?
I don't have to pay for my travel, bro. I'm spending 110 racks.
So you're making a shit ton of money. You're spending a shit ton of money. Everybody wants to be around you because you're the dude making a shit ton of money, spending a shit ton of money, and having more fun than everybody else. And you also happen to be a pro snowboarder. Is snowboarding suffering at all?
Absolutely.
Do you even think about that, or is the party more
Of
important?
course I can think about it. Do I care about it? No. I'm watching other motherfuckers make 5 times more money than me who aren't as good, who don't have any talent, who have no vision. So I don't care. I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, I guess this is what it is. Like, I'm just going to do me. And now, is that the intelligent answer? No.
No, but you're a young kid and you find powder.
Certain individuals that grew up in my time had awesome mentors, man, that were like, hey, man, you need to fucking, like, either give me that check and, like, go do what you're going to do, or you need to, like, chill out. I had nobody.
You're like Nate Bozong at that point. Did you ever hang out with Bozong?
No, I don't fuck with that dude. He scares me. I'll end up doing some weird shit.
He seems like a really sweet, good person who likes to party.
Yeah.
And he was an amazing snowboarder. Towards the end of your professional career, he wasn't Forum 8, but he was next generation.
Forum copied what the fuck we did at Ride. Let's just put that on.
They just went younger and better and not as party.
No better. Nobody will ever be better than Rowan Riders at riding handrails. Just say that. And nobody will have more skis than we had. But those Forum dudes were good. They were all real good.
I'm going to take a break. We're going to talk about my sponsors. And my next sponsor is Spy Optic. They have been independent since '94 and taking a playful approach to everything they create. They're killing it on the innovation game this season with their new electrochromic one-lens technology. If you haven't heard about the Ace EC goggle, it packs the power of 3 lenses into one by changing tints with the touch of a button. It's the best goggle on the market, period. Check out spyoptic.com for all the details on the game-changing EC, as well as their newest athlete signature models and sunglasses. For listening to the show, the good folks at Spy are going to give you 20% off their entire site. When you check out of their site, use the code capital TPM, the number 20, all one word at checkout, and you will get that 20% off. My final sponsor is the 10 Barrel Brewery based out of Bend, Oregon. They are all about drinking beer outside and supporting snow sports and culture. They really put their money where their mouth is, and this year there's a bunch of projects that prove that. There's the Pray for Snow movie, which 10 Barrel is the only beer company to ever produce their own ski and snowboard movie. They're also working with Mike Bassich to build a Snowcat mini pub, and they'll have their Hella Big Air contest this year, March 9th at Copper Mountain, March 30th at Mount Bachelor, and there will be one more TBD location and date. So next time you're at the store, make sure you pick up some 10 Barrel and support the beer that supports you. You can find all about the Hella Big Air, the movie tour, athletes, and more over at 10barrel.com. Those are my sponsors, and now we'll get back into the podcast. When we get to the Ride time, Ride's a public company. It becomes a public company. You guys start it private, and it comes public really quick.
And then I got more money.
Yeah, so Tim, he had a vision of what was cool.
It wasn't to Jamie Salter.
Jamie was on the other side. So you had Tim knowing what was cool. You had Jamie being the business guy. Jamie makes sure you guys maximize your profits. Do you get shares of the company when it goes public?
I sure did.
What does that look like to you financially? Does that look like it's going to set you up?
I don't really want to talk about that shit. And you can publish what I just said. I did some shit for Ride Snowboards, okay?
You bled for them and you put everything that you had of your life into them.
I put the fucking team together. I did some shit. I love the fucking Pugs. I do. But in the end...
You're talking about personal, but on the business side, it didn't work out as well.
No. I did make a little money, and I spent it in probably 2 weekends with fucking TJ Lise in Boulder, buying pink pants at Polo and getting them tailored and shit.
But when you say a little money, I mean, getting clothing tailored at Polo is like $1,000 or $2,000. That's not money.
I think I got, when I cashed out, I think I got 15 racks.
I don't even know what racks means.
$15,000. I got 25% when I cashed out, when I was done with the ride.
You were an athlete getting a salary.
I was an athlete that put a team together, bro.
But your contract wasn't for you to put a team together. It was for being an athlete, right? If you were smarter back then, you would have put together...
Contract or not, bro, this is family.
Everybody says it's family.
Well, then make it motherfucking family.
Well, I can't do that, man.
I'm not mad at you, Mikey Powell. I'm just saying, then make it motherfucking family. Tell it what it is. That's it.
I hear you. But it's never family, especially when there's a corporation involved.
Bro, I was 23 years old.
Yeah, man, you didn't know.
Did I make many horrible fucking decisions? Absolutely.
It sounds like you did. What was the most fun time you had?
A lot of my best times, honestly, were spent in Europe with Dale Rayberg. We tore Europe up for years, bro. And we made rides so much fucking money because they ain't never seen the pretty black dude, the pretty white dude. Me and Rayberg were like a motherfucking walking ride Benetton ad in Europe.
You know, when you said earlier that you were a bunch of dogs following the guy that fed you, that's what you were your whole career, man. You went to Europe to be the dog that got fed to build that brand. You always knew your role. You just happened to do it really well and didn't negotiate a good enough deal.
I didn't negotiate shit. We didn't have no agents. We were punk rock.
The original ride crew
was punk rock. I got to take a bit. But yeah, that's it, pal. You're right.
So we just did Piss Break Part 2. And it sounds like, Russell, you have a job right now selling luxury vehicles to people. Right now, he's working on selling a Porsche 911, a 2004. What does something like that go for?
55 racks. It's a 2004
That's 55,000 to people that don't speak in racks.
Yeah. If you don't speak in racks, don't speak to me. You hear me?
Hey, well, I'm speaking to you. I just learned
You do
racks,
speak
man.
in racks. Don't try to play that naive Jewish gentleman, Powell.
All right.
I know who you are.
So Russell's going to sell his car in 10 minutes. So we're going to do a part 2 with Russell. I'm trying to see where we left off. With Ride, you really impact the snowboard industry because everybody's talking about it. It's a totally new thing, a rider-owned, then corporate brand with the core skate type team. But first, what do they sign you for retainer?
Not much. Couple racks a month. Here's the thing, bro. I had like a $50,000 a year travel budget.
So they said, hey, Russell, we're going to give you $24,000 a year and $50,000 in travel. And you were like, I will take that.
Absolutely.
And then you have pro models. Are you the first black athlete in snowboarding with a pro model snowboard?
I'm the Jackie Robinson of that shit. Yes, sir.
Did you think about it at that point?
Absolutely.
Okay. You were able to get that pro model. And then the first board you're going to put out, your graphics going to be
Russell from Fat Albert.
Ride doesn't do their homework. Tim's running them. They kind of are Wild West, and they haven't done all their research, and you guys get in trouble with that graphic.
We got in a little trouble, I think. Not as much trouble as Mr. Cosby's in right now, but hey.
What do you think about that?
I think that dude needs to...
Yeah, man. I wish they would have just chopped his head off, and I loved him as a child. What do you think of the Cosby Show?
I thought the shit was fake, but...
No, but when you're a kid...
Yeah, I still thought it was fake.
What about when Rudy was Sweet Feet and she scored like 8 touchdowns? You thought it was fake?
I just thought the whole situation was fake.
Okay, so pro models, you guys get sued.
Not sued, cease and desist.
How many boards are they printing?
I sold 10,000 of my own snowboards that year.
And how much do they give you per snowboard?
Well, that's the thing. I had my board, the Mini RJ, and then Jake's board. So I could be completely wrong and I could be mistaken, but there was 10,000 of my 150s and then maybe 5,000 or 2,500 of the other two. And so I asked, I was like, hey man, can I just get money just for mine? And they wouldn't do it. I was getting $250 a board, which was minimal.
That's what skateboarders make. Their product costs $100. Doesn't even cost $100. I'm lying.
$59.
I once managed athletes for skiing. There was an athlete, I think, that at one point got $25 per ski.
Palmer was getting $20 a ski.
He made like 5 years worth of sales, and K2 changed their policy because they learned a lesson.
A lesson what? Motherfucker put out the shit that was dope, bro.
No.
Pay him.
The lesson was he was a pro skier selling a ski to beginners. If you're going to give a pro model.
Who made the choice? Because he was intelligent enough.
Oh, he was smart.
To realize, hey, man, like with my board, I made my board so everybody could ride it.
After he made his $240,000 off royalties, K2, after that contract ran out, was like, hey,
we're not ever doing that shit again.
So then you have to change your board graphic. You got to go?
Part 2.
Yeah, we're really at part 2.
Yeah.
What is so pressing right now that Russell has to leave?
I need to go get this 911 turbo convertible.
We'll go sell that car and we'll talk in a few weeks.
Thank you, Mike.
So that was time with Russell Winfield. And how about that exit? I don't think I've had anybody end the show like that since we started it. And you know what? Russell's a one-of-a-kind dude, and he can have that one-of-a-kind exit. I have so much more to talk about with Russell, and we will do that on part 2, because Russell is one of those guys who crushed it in a different era when the rules were a lot different, and it's great to hear his perspective on how things went down during his career. So that was the podcast this week. Now I want to ask you to rate me on whatever platform you listen to me on. If you're on an iPhone, here's what you need to do. Go to Apple Podcasts, search for the Powell Movement, click the logo, scroll down to where you see the stars, click 5 stars, and you're done. Thanks for doing it. It's greatly appreciated and helps the show grow. I also need to thank my amazing sponsors for making this show happen. They are Evo, Rescue Water, the 10 Barrel Brewery, Outdoor Research, and Spy Optic. Without them, the show doesn't happen, so thanks to my sponsors and thank you for listening. Have a great week, everyone.